Okay, we are recording. We have officially started.
We have officially started.
Make sure I look at the camera and not at the screen. But hello.
Hi.
This is my dear friend Kiera, and I'm so happy that she has decided to allow me to just kind of have a conversation about things that are relevant and are just something that I think a lot of people don't know about. Maybe don't know about you. And a lot of people who do know you probably know this because this is very much, who you are and it's your life and what has started from it. So I guess we can start off with just giving me a little description about, first of all, how we met. First of all, we met it. Don't laugh.
So we actually met at church. Honestly, you and your husband, y'all were the pastors over the church that we were going to, and y'all just invited us to lunch, and Keontae and I just spilled out our whole life. And honestly, that just kind of started the friendship, the relationship, everything. And that was about 5 years ago?
I think it was longer than that. I think we met in 2019.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So we met right before the pandemic.
That is right. Yeah, it was right before. Yeah, so 2019, yeah. And then ever since then, we've been rocking and rolling.
We've been together. Through all the craziness and all the starts of things and stops of things and all the DIY things that we have attempted to do together.
All the things. But nonetheless, it has been a great journey with you. I will say that. So I think that we can honestly say we gained a really great friendship. Even with us blowing up things that cause a little bit of I don't really know.
I'm gonna say it. A DIY project will definitely test your relationship, and it will reveal where you really are.
Yeah.
And either it breaks it or it makes it stronger. So for us, it made it stronger. I don't do balloons anymore because of that. But yes, I'm gonna let the people know.
I love it.
Tell us a little bit about your family.
So we are considered a large family because there are 6 of us. We have 4 children. We have 2 boys, 2 girls, Kingston, Khaleesi, and then we have Kaiser and Kalila. Me and my husband, we've been married for almost 10 years. Woo, 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 woo.
We're surviving. We made it.
I know, we surviving, yeah. Marriage is not easy. No, I'm just kidding. I have 4, we have 4 children. 2 of them, they have an illness called sickle cell disease. But our other 2 children, they just carry the trait of sickle cell. So that has been very much a part of our family's journey thus far. However, outside of that, we're just a family that like to hang out, and honestly, I'm probably the one that like to throw all the parties, and they just like for their friends to come over. So at the core, we're just a family that love bonding time. But yeah, there are 6 of us.
There are 6 of them. You heard that correct, folks. There are 6 of them. Tell me about Kalila. I was like, are we sure?
I mean, I wasn't sure either. I was like, okay, Lord.
She's adorable. But the reason why I wanted to have a conversation with you is because you are a family, not just a huge family. I guess not huge. You don't have 9 kids, but it feels like 9.
It does.
But you are a family that, you're kind of going through and navigating being a parent of children that have a chronic disease that I think a lot of people don't know about. Yeah. Last month was Sickle Cell Awareness Month, and it just kind of brought awareness to the disease, to what it is, how it manifests in people. I know that it affects only Black and brown people. Am I correct on that?
No, that's actually one of the misconceptions of sickle cell. So it actually affects anyone they can be Indian, they can be Asian, they can be of gosh, what's the word I'm looking for here? African American, obviously, and anyone that is Hispanic.
Mm.
Yeah. So it can actually affect a wider range. Now, is it predominantly in the African American culture? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue to having. Can you define sickle cell? Because for me, my first experience with it, I am a child of the '90s and early 2000s, so I heard about it for the very first time through an interview that I think ABC did with T-Boz from TLC.
Oh, yeah.
That was my beginning knowledge of sickle cell. I knew nothing about it. And she kind of gave a very in-depth behind the scenes look of what it feels to be somebody who has it. And, still being a functioning human being. I mean, she's part of one of the biggest girl bands in like history, but still having moments that sickle cell brings. So for the audience, for anybody who, because it's not really well known, can you give us kind of a definition of what sickle cell is?
Yeah, so sickle cell disease is a genetic blood disorder that affects your blood flow in the body. So the most simplest way that I can explain it is for someone that does not have sickle cell disease, their blood is shaped like circles. As the where someone with sickle cell disease, theirs is shaped like a sickle. So it's like a little C, and what happens is the blood flow doesn't flow as well because those sickled shapes, they get trapped in certain parts of their body, and they can be anywhere. So essentially, it causes like a clot or like a clog somewhere, and stops that blood flow, and then obviously causing like some swelling and pain and that sort of thing. So to put it in simplest terms, it's a genetic blood disorder that affects like the blood flow that causes pain in the body, and it can literally be anywhere, even within organs. And there are different types of sickle cell disease. So the one that my children have is sickle cell SS. Sickle cell SS is the one that mainly attacks or affects the organs. So their blood clogs happen a lot more within their organs. It can happen within their feet, their legs, everywhere else, but detrimentally. It's more detrimental, like within their organs and everything, that it would affect them. So, yeah.
I know you said it was a genetic disorder, and I know you said so. Two of your kids don't have it, and two of them do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two that don't have it are your oldest two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said they were carriers. What does that mean?
So, yeah, they're the carriers. So basically, they just have the trait. So they carry the gene to be able to pass it along. However, we just would always have the conversation with them whenever the day comes that they find their significant other is like, do they have sickle cell? Because two traits put together is what can cause the disease. Now, Keontae and I, which is my husband, we both have the trait. We're both, and it's so crazy that we're both the carriers for sickle cell SS. Wow. So we always find that so like crazy. So I'm like, okay, God, obviously you knew exactly what you were doing whenever you put us together, because I didn't know that he was a carrier for it. I knew, but growing up, I really didn't think much of it. But yeah, so our first two, they don't have it. They just have the trait. So that just means that whenever they get older, whenever they find their significant other, they just need to be a little bit more cautious and learn how to navigate what that looks like if their partner has sickle cell trait or disease and that sort of thing, because they could potentially carry it to their next children. So, or the next generation, really.
Wow. I know, surprisingly, I do have the trait, which I did not know about until my firstborn child, because they said, oh, well, you have a sickle cell trait, so we'll test your baby for it. And I was like, whoa, wait, pause. What are you saying to me? So I feel like it's not something you typically know unless you have the trait and your parents told you beforehand. Because my mom did not tell me. So when I found that out about my kid, I called her and was like, hey, Chris, hey, there's this thing they said I have. And she's like,
Did
oh,
she
yeah.
know?
She's a carrier.
Okay. Okay.
As well. So I guess it looked out that my parents didn't both have it. But again, honestly, it's one of those like specialty tests that you get.
Yeah, so like you actually get tested at your newborn screenings. Now, granted, each state apparently does it differently. So we have 4 children, like I said. 2 of them were born in North Carolina, 1 in South Carolina, and another one in Florida. So each state does it differently how they test. So some state, like North Carolina, it's not necessarily a part of their newborn screening. You have to go, they do, I don't know, it's a secondary test that you have to do, that sort of thing. But they do make sure that the testing for it is done. However, there's different ways that they do it. But for South Carolina, which is where we live, the newborn screening, they include it at birth, like the day that, I think it's like a day or 2 after they're born, they test them.
A little blood from their feet or whatever.
Yeah, they take the blood from their feet. And then we usually get the results back within like 2 to like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through, so Kaiser, who's your 3rd child, ended up being born. He went through his newborn testing. Is that how you found out about it? And then like, how was that reaction to hearing the news?
So it's actually a really funny story. Well, not at the time though, because I was actually I was distraught. But we did the newborn screening. Now, obviously, Kingston, which is our oldest, and Khaleesi is our second oldest, they didn't have it. So when we were pregnant with Kaiser, we didn't think anything of having of him having the disease. We honestly thought like, wow, by the grace of God, like he is like, yeah, like we're gonna carry you guys through. And so we got the newborn screening for Kaiser. We got they called us and said, hey, we want to do some further testing and that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, sure, that's fine. That's standard protocol in my mind, not realizing that they had already flagged something. So we went in for his doctor's appointment with his pediatrician, and they said, hey, we want to let you know that we are going to have to set up a specialty doctor's appointment with the hematologist, just because something did come back for sickle cell and that sort of thing. And I was like, huh? I was like, so are we saying he has it? Are we saying like we don't know, so we got to do further testing? I thought that's what the further testing was for. Our doctor, the pediatrician, he was actually, I think he was a little timid to tell me about it, or to tell me that he even had it, just because it is something that can be like really severe. And so I remember showing up to our hematology appointment just thinking like, oh, we're just here just, as a consultation, just in case, that sort of thing. And I literally spent a whole day there meeting an entire medical team for like the whole hematology team. And I was just like numb. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And like, I'll never forget the moment. This was like halfway through meeting so many people. We're like probably honestly at the end of like meeting like the nurses, the doc, all the people. And I said, so I just have one question. And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I said, so are you telling me my child has sickle cell disease? Wow. And they just looked at me, and like, she was like, yes. She was like, did his pediatrician not tell you guys? And I said, truth be told, he made it seem as though there was a chance that he didn't, because that was kind of the way that he conveyed the message, was like, they'll be able to tell you for certain if he has it, that sort of thing. And they'll talk to you more about it. And so the nurse ended up saying, she was like, well, I'm so sorry that he didn't tell you, but yes, he does have sickle cell disease. And at that moment, I was like, oh, so that was the point of today, was to meet an entire team that would care for him basically until he's 21. So that was something else to really like process and just kind of take in, the fact that I'm meeting people that would essentially help me take care of my child for the next 21 years.
21 years.
Yeah. Yes. I know. Is Carmen still laying down? Yeah. That's okay. Well, as soon as I'm done with my call, we can play, okay? I know. I know you do. Hey, look at me. I am on a call. Okay. Alrighty. As soon as I'm done, we can go outside. We can go play. We can do whatever you want. I'll even take you to McDonald's. You want to go to McDonald's? Yeah. Okay. Well, are you going to be on your best behavior? Okay. All right. Go ahead. Head out. Lock the door behind you.
Light. Look, my makeup is so fake.
Oh, other way. There you go. I love you. You're so great.
This is better.
And we'll get you some snacks too, okay?
This lift.
Yeah? Okay.
Your eyes. You're like, get out of the room.
Is that how I look? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. So you didn't know, like, there was no like the doctor did not confirm and say, hey, your son, like, set you down and said that your son has this. It was more like, let's just kind of be people.
Yeah, like, let's just go talk to the hematologist and, like, we'll discuss it. Now, funny thing is, with Kalila, we were a little bit, which is our youngest, she's 5 months. We were well prepared for the possibility of her having sickle cell. And so he did the same exact thing. So I was just like, oh, poor thing. I think he's just like, I don't know, maybe he's had a bad experience. I don't really know.
Like you're legally responsible to be like, hey, this is what's up. Not
yeah.
Gray area.
Well, also too, I will say that day whenever I met them, and that sort of thing, she had asked me, she was like, did the pediatrician not tell you or, confirm with you? And I was like, no, they really didn't. They made it seem as though this was something that you guys had to tell me and not more so something that was their responsibility to really say. And I said, I get it. I said, I'm a little shocked and I'm in shock right now, to be honest. So I was like, maybe they didn't want that reaction. But she made it a point to say that that was something that they're working on within the area, is because a lot of people don't know about sickle cell disease. And there are doctors that have children that come into their practice and their children have sickle cell disease and they're like, hands off. I don't know. I can't really tell you. I'm not really good at this. All I know is you need to go see a specialist. And so, for her, she was like, we're really, really working on giving the doctors the tools that they need and the language so that way they can tell and be able to explain, hey, this is what your child has, and like really comfort, the parents and that sort of thing too. Because it is tough. Like, no, I don't care what it is. Nobody wants to hear their child has an illness or chronic illness at that you're like, so we don't know if this is going to be like his life or like, what are we saying? So I was a little mad at him for a while, and if he ever watches this, I'm not mad at you anymore. We absolutely love you. All of our kids have been going to him since they were itty bitty. So we're good.
I wonder, and you probably don't have an answer to this. It's just from me, just hearing about it and just from experiencing it with you. It feels like a lot of doctors, like I said, a lot of doctors don't know much about it, but it does affect a large group of people. For me, again, I was ignorant. I thought it was just Black and brown people and Hispanic, but apparently there's a lot of other groups that experience this as well. But sadly, it seems to be a minority disease. So that could be connected to why.
Yeah. I actually was talking with someone this morning. We're just talking about the awareness and that sort of thing. Because like you said, Sickle Cell Awareness Month was last month. And it's a domino effect. Because it does affect a smaller group of people, then most people aren't aware of it. And because a lot of people aren't aware of it, we don't acknowledge it, or there's not enough information about it, that sort of thing. And because of that, there becomes a lack of care for the children that do have sickle cell. Now, again, I just thank God for him having like a covering over us, because I don't think it's by happenstance that we moved back to North Carolina from Florida, and we have the most amazing team, like I would say, in this region. And so I don't take that lightly, but there are other people that are, I don't know, in California or across the state or even in other nations and around the world. They don't have the same care. They don't have it, just because it does affect a small group of people. And so because of that, there's lack of funding. There's just a lack of I don't know, just knowledge in general. There's a lot of people that don't have the medicines, just because it is something that only affect a small group of people. So, again, medicines that are here, they're not there, that sort of thing. So it is definitely one of those where I feel like it's now my job to take part in making sure that I'm bringing awareness, and that sort of thing to people around us, which is why I don't mind sharing Kaiser's story, just because at the end of the day, maybe they'll meet someone else, that sort of thing, that may not be as fortunate as us, and they're able to bless, that other family by saying, oh, well, I had a friend that actually had this. Let me get you guys a meal, or let me, take care of like, a doctor's visit, or whatever the case might be. So yeah.
Let's go back to that time. So you found out he had it. You met your entire team. You go home. You and your husband, Keontae, go home. What is that? Like, how do you, like, what's that conversation like?
So again, I was not I think our doctor's appointment that morning was like maybe at 9 or 10. And I honestly thought it was just like, oh, let's just go and let's just see what they got to say, whatever. And I literally called Keontae because he was at work. We didn't go together because, again, I was not aware that this would be like a really, really important appointment. And I just FaceTimed him and we were just talking, and I just remember crying. And I was just like, he has a disease and I don't know what to do, and la da 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 da. If I'm being completely honest, like, we processed it differently. I think Keontae probably processed it by being like, his motto is, you can't cry over spilt milk. It is what it is. It's done. There's nothing that we can do about it. We can only move forward. Me, I process it by, how in the heck am I going to get my child cured? Like, how in the heck am I going to keep them from getting sick so they don't have like this pain in their body? Like, what prayers can I pray? Like, all these different things. So, honestly, the conversation around it, there wasn't one. It was more so like, let's just get through this. Let's just figure it out as like the trials come, the tests come, all of that. So yeah, it was definitely one of those moments where all we knew was we had a child that we absolutely loved and adored and all the things. And then all of a sudden we're navigating, like other families, how to deal with a chronic illness within your child. And again, this is something that you have at birth. Now, granted, it doesn't show up, within the body for, several months. Some people maybe years, that sort of thing. But our journey started pretty early. I think Kaiser was maybe 6 months when we started. Like, we started seeing the pain, him having illnesses or getting sick, that sort of thing. So I think for us, it was more so, let's just get through. Let's just live our life as normal, and we'll figure it out as we go. So, yeah, that was how we dealt with it.
So what does I know you guys call it like a crisis, right? When you have a moment. What does that look like, and how does that feel for you, like, as a mom, to watch? You said 6 months. It's very young. They can't communicate.
Yeah.
Like, kind of walk us through that for somebody who doesn't know.
Yeah. You know the saying that they say your first child would be the one that will need therapy because they're the guinea pig. I'm going to be honest. It'll be Kaiser. Kaiser is going to need therapy, just because we didn't know how to navigate. We didn't know how to help him. He's a baby, right? So he cried about everything. You cry because you're hungry. You cry because you're tired. You cry because, maybe you want to be picked up. So whenever the crisis started to present itself, we really couldn't tell. And so we really had to dig deep and figure out, okay, when is he actually having a crisis and when is he just hungry? Like, how does this, because he was a baby that did cry a lot. So what helped us was whenever your child has sickle cell disease and that sort of thing, I think the first 2 years of their life, anytime they get a fever, and at this time, this was also around COVID. So anytime they got a fever, 100.4 or above, they had to be seen in the hospital. They had to be in the ER to be seen because if they go untreated, they can get sepsis, which is... if I'm being completely honest, I really don't know the technical terms, but I just know it's something that gets into your bloodstream and can cause like something fatal.
Yeah, your organs are shutting down, right?
Yeah. So it's really important that we get your children into the hospital to be seen within an hour of them getting a fever because there's medicine that they need to administer to them. And so I think that helped us out a lot because there were tests that were coming. They did like a ton of tests whenever he would get admitted every single time. And some of the tests would be able to show if he was having a crisis or not. And so my brain went to let me utilize this to match up what he's doing to what the test is saying. So if if the tests are saying that, oh yeah, he had a pain crisis, then I could be like, oh, he did cry a ton today, that sort of thing. But also I started looking for like physical signs within his body. I started looking for like swelling in the hands, swelling in the feet, because that is also another sign for when they're younger, if they're having a pain crisis or not. And so Kaiser wouldn't always have swelling in the hands and feet, but his feet and hands or legs would be hot to touch. And so what that told me was the blood flow was all going to like one spot and kind of, it's almost like whenever you get your thumb smashed in the door and it's like swelling and you can touch it and it's hot. That's kind of how I was able to tell and how Keontae was kind of able to pick up on the signs too. But also for him, again, like I said earlier, and I apologize if this is like information overload, but his spleen. So because it affects his organs, his spleen for him would be the thing that affected him the most at that time. So his spleen would be enlarged. So those are things that I would have to look for anytime it was like an onset a fever or any of that. I just honestly began to learn the signs of like what it looked like. Yeah, for him.
So you really had to become an advocate and observer of your child.
Yeah.
It kind of takes being a first time, like kind of like when you're a first time mom, you're like checking, what does this mean? She's crying for this. And then and bringing that back for your third child of like really having to keep an eye and be intuitive of what's happening. So that you could move him quickly to the hospital.
Yeah. So sorry, I was going to say one thing, and it's actually pretty funny. I'll never forget one of the doctors asking me, they were like, are you in the medical field? And I was like, no, I just Google a lot. I Google a lot and I pay attention. And if I'm being completely honest, I really did rely on God, like a lot to like, and although my prayer was to take his pain away, God gave me wisdom and he gave me knowledge and he gave me the understanding to even be able to get through a lot of the things that he was even going through. So I guess at the end of the day, I did have like a medical doctor in my back pocket, but I thought that was so funny. One of the doctors asked me because I was asking so many different things. And even just figuring out like, hey, this is happening when this happens. Can you test this? Like whatever the case might be. And they were always open to it because they were like, well, she's kind of on track to like, it could be something different. So if you guys are watching this, I appreciate you guys so much. Y'all have been such a blessing. And like, y'all put up with all my questions.
Yeah, I feel like his team really became family for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely did. I will say there's something amazing about having a team, one, predominantly Black. So one of his doctors actually has siblings that have children with sickle cell and went through bone marrow transplants, went through the curing process, all of that. So that really helped us on our journey. But also his bone marrow transplant doctor has gone through, he went through leukemia, or he had leukemia as a child. So some of the similar protocols that they do for leukemia, they do for sickle cell as well. So it's really cool to have a doctor that is like, no, I'm really passionate about this, about blood disorders and like healing children and like that sort of thing. So it's very much a part of their lives, and they embody it, and so we can feel it and we can see it. So that really helps us out a lot. But also because they are so knowledgeable about it, they care about it. So yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of them having a specialty, right? Because they're like, we know everything about this. Front, back, we research and we want to know, and we're taking notes. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So would you ever have a crisis? Let's say you guys are out, right? As a family, you're out hanging out, you plan something for your other kids to do, they're excited about it, and then, oh no, Kaiser has a crisis.
Yeah, that has happened to us many, many times. We've tried to navigate it as normal as possible, I guess you could say, in the sense of we try not to let our children miss out on things. And because of that, even looking back, I'm just like, oh, wow, we really did do a really great job at navigating and making sure like our older two had a normal life as possible. They were able to go to all of the games. All of the birthday parties and like all the different things, simply because we tag team. Now there were times, and you remember this night, where we dropped the kids off to you, so that way Kaiser and I could or Keontae and I could both be with Kaiser in the hospital, and that was a reprieve. But we definitely had to navigate his illness like independently, just so that way we could make sure the other two lived as much of a normal life as possible, because they did sometimes miss out on things, or they may not have gotten like the best vacations ever. There were times where we were in Florida, and for us, we were just like, okay, what does this look like if Kaiser goes into a pain crisis? And luckily, the place that we would visit when we went to Florida, because that was our hot spot, we had friends that were in the medical field, so they were well versed in the disease and that sort of thing. And if we needed anything, they knew how to help, that sort of thing. I honestly, it's been challenging, and I think Kingston, which is our oldest, he remembers it a lot more than maybe Khaleesi do, just because we used to vacation all the time. We would just pick up and go, no problem, whatever. And then all of a sudden, we couldn't. We had to figure out how to navigate around Kaiser, because if he does go into a pain crisis, what does that look like? We can't just take a trip and go to the mountains, because for him, that may be an onset of crisis. We can't just go to the pool when it's like kind of cold, because for him, it may be an onset of crisis. So, and he is a little one. And so for him, he's like, no, I can do all things. Like, I should be able to go out and have fun and that sort of thing. So he doesn't know his boundaries yet. So that was hard, because we constantly had to have conversations with them about, hey, we may not be able to do this because of X, Y, and Z. So there was something about being authentic and real with our kids, but at the same time, making sure that we don't, plant the seed of bitterness or resentment within them too. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. I remember, so the reason why I even asked you to do this interview is because you made a post on Facebook about the things that a parent that has like a normal, I'm going to put air quotes, normal family life versus like what your life is and what they don't know. Can you kind of dabble into kind of what you were saying there? Because I think it was really, really impactful.
Yeah, definitely. When I made that post, it was actually, I think it was a day after Kaiser had just been to the hospital. And again, he had to go to the hospital because I couldn't tell. Well, I couldn't tell what was going on with him this time. Typically, I can tell, what's going on, and like, oh, I know to like give him medicine for X, Y, and Z. But this time, I had no idea because in his he started saying his chest was hurting, and I was like, that's so strange. Like, what is going on? I didn't know if it was pneumonia. I didn't know what it was, and he hadn't spiked a fever. Typically, again, that's my telltale to go ahead and go to the ER, because for him, when he got sick quick. It was within like a matter of an hour or two that we were already like planning, like, okay, we already know we're going to end up going to the ER, but we can't go until it get here. So let's just go ahead and try and plan it out. Who's going to get the kids? Am I going to go? Are you going to go? But it just dawned on me that night that I was like, wow, like our life really isn't the typical life, because he does have this illness. We are way more cautious about, okay, do he go into the hospital now? He's saying his chest is hurting. Does he have acute chest syndrome, which is something that is another big thing, making sure that, is he breathing well? Like, what's going on? Is his chest collapsing? Just different things. So it's definitely one of those where we have to take extra precaution. And, when I made the post, I really don't ever want to take away from other people's experiences that have the normal life, because there are times where there are many children that have to go to the doctor because, again, we aren't aware of what's going on, that sort of thing. However, for us, it's just a little bit more challenging because we can't just say, oh, just give him Tylenol, or just give him ibuprofen, and he'll be perfectly fine. For us, that could be reducing his fever. And because we've just reduced his fever, now we don't know if he's actually really sick, or if we skip out on taking him to the hospital, which risks the chances of him even having sepsis, having something else going on that we completely ignored. And so for us, our life is a little bit different, especially in the sense of how we care for him. We can't just give him Tylenol and say, go sleep it off, or give him ibuprofen, that sort of thing. We have to be a little bit more attentive, I guess you could say, in the sense of we can't just brush it off. We got to be like, oh no, he needs to go to the hospital, that sort of thing. And I try my hardest to like get him into his specialist before we have to go to the ER. Because one, I don't want to see the doctor bill.
Oh Lord, that's a whole conversation.
I know. And then two, that it's like, for us, it's like a 45 minute to an hour drive. So I'm just like, oh, let me pack the bag, because I don't know if we're going to end up staying overnight or not. Like, I don't know what they're going to say. They may need to run more tests. So here I am trying to get this medical bag and all these things together, so that way we can just like go and just on the safe side. So to be on the safe side.
Yeah, I think that's like a drastic difference, because with your older kids, they say, "Oh my, I'm not feeling well. You gotta go lay down."
Please,
we're fine. Get some water. Like I don't know how many times I've done that to like Grayson or Lavender. I'm like, "Oh, my throat hurts." Oh, you're okay. You're still going to school.
No, the cure-all is, let me get you some ginger ale. Get some ginger ale.
Some miracle worker. Kaiser's like, no.
I'm not feeling well.
Yeah, so now, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say, the learning, Kaiser is the most resilient kid you will ever meet. He is the most happiest kid you will ever meet. He is the most energizing bunny you will ever meet. And it really, 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 truly should be such a phenomenal joy, and such like something I should just have such a positive outlook on. However, he is my community neighbor, or he's not community neighbor, but he's our neighborhood mayor. So he's always talking to people and that sort of thing. However, on the flip side, when he's not that person, that is also when we know that something is wrong, because he will go till the wheels fall off. And I'll never forget one day looking at him and being like, something's not right. His eyes were yellow, which is another symptom of him like having a crisis. And I was like, your eyes are yellow, but your body is saying, I am good. And I'll never forget being like, we're just going to go in just to be on the safe side. And luckily we did. He ended up staying in the hospital, I think this time, like 3 to 5 days, but his hemoglobin had dropped. So a normal hemoglobin would be like 11 and higher. For him, his normal is a 9.0, but he actually had got all the way down to like, I want to say a 4, which is when you're in a state of like your body's in a crisis mode, like literally trying to fight, like to survive. Yeah, and so I was like, well, good thing I wasn't relying on your energy this time, bud. But typically, that is something that we can rely on for him.
How do you balance that? Because it does take a lot of energy and time and focus to notice things as far as like yellowing eyes or swollen extremities. Yeah. How do you balance the typical things that a mom has to do? And you were working at one point too, and then also taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
How do you? What would you suggest to balance that? Because it can become all consuming, where you got your kid in a bubble because you don't want anything bad to happen to them. How do you balance like you taking care of yourself, you allowing him freedoms to go and do and not have this like microscope on him or a straight jacket on him at all times? Yeah.
Honestly, there really isn't. There's no balance to it. If I'm being completely honest, it's just more so recognizing what to do in the moment to make the situation better. Like there's really no balance to it, just because I tried that. I tried so hard to create this balance, quote unquote. But reality is we have a child that needs more attention in another way than our other child does. And unfortunately, it shows up in the way of like physically, he needs us there. Not more so, an emotional, showing up for our children, that sort of thing. I would say if I could give any sort of, I don't know, advice, that sort of thing, or even wisdom, it would be more so just taking it one moment at a time and being honest with the people that are within your circle. I don't think we wouldn't have gotten through it if we didn't have people like you and our other close friends to be around us to help us navigate, because there were times where I was like drowning and y'all like, we'll just take the kids. We got them. And that helped us out a lot, because not only were we trying to like manage the normal life, but we were also just trying to manage ourselves and care for ourselves too. And for me as a mom, I was a little afraid to like let him out of my sight or let him just be and just go. But I also had to find the blessing in that too, of like, he wants to go out. He wants to be a kid. He wants to be free. So I need to figure out how to navigate that. Keontae had to figure out how to navigate that. However, for my husband, it was very easy for him, because he's like, oh, he's a boy. He's going to be fine. We're going to get him through. Like, he'll be perfectly fine. Like, he's good. So I think for him, I think that we had to rely on each other a lot. And, hopefully my husband doesn't mind me speaking to this, but for him, it was more so, he was like, hey, hun, like, I do have to rely on you, because he is the breadwinner of our family. So for me, that did mean a lot of times I am the one at the hospital with him, that sort of thing. So it was definitely for us, even in our marriage, like finding how do we care for one another in this season too, because we're both carrying a burden that is not light. It is not light at all. We're trying to figure all this out. And it is heavy. So, I think just taking it moment by moment, but also just realizing that do the best thing for your family in that moment. It's really easy to be like, to feel like, oh, I need to balance it all. I need to be able to hold on to this job, because that was me. I was career driven and that sort of thing. And I literally remember being like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I have to put down the career in order for me to make sure that he's okay and make sure that he's living a sustained life. Because at the end of the day, me and my husband were both working high, like really demanding jobs. And so we weren't home. We weren't able to really care for him or see the things in the way that we should have. So I put down the mantle of being like career driven and that sort of thing, and just been like, I'll do it in this season for my son or my children. But also too, that opened up the door for me to be able to care for my other two children as well. Because when you're so engrossed in your one child that has a chronic illness, it can so easily be centered around him. So in order for me to keep the quote unquote balance, I had to make a sacrifice. We had to make a sacrifice financially, just the whole 9 yards. So, yeah.
I will say, just from an observer from the outside, I think you guys do a really good job of bringing in Khaleesi and Kingston. And I don't feel like they resent Kaiser for his disease. I feel like they really find a way to support him and love on him. And even though he's a little bro, so they ignore and beat him. But I don't sense a level of I hate my brother because he takes all of mommy's time. Yeah, or I hate that they can't be here because they're at the hospital. Yeah, so I think you guys are doing a really good job. Again, from the outside looking into that situation.
And again, we've done a really great job of being as honest as possible with him about like, hey, your brother needs more physically, like in this season. Kaiser went through a bone marrow transplant, and I know that's something that we hadn't, introduced on the call or talked about or anything, but he went through a bone marrow transplant, and for them, we really had to break down what that looks like. He could be cured, like he could have healing in the body, like all these different things. And we had to tell them there would be, so in order for him to go through the bone marrow transplant, they both had, Kingston and Khaleesi both had to be tested to see if they could be a bone marrow transplant match. So that way he could be cured, because that at this time, that was the only testing or the only trial that we could go through. And so whenever we were talking to them about it, we told them, we were like, hey, one of you guys, we know for certain, will be, the physical healer for Kaiser, meaning one of you guys, they will extract bone marrow from you and they will give it to Kaiser to help him. And then, the best way that we knew how to, like, I guess, balance it or make both of the children feel like they were taking part is we told them, and the other person will be the spiritual healer. They will be the ones that's praying for them the morning of the transplant, and up, throughout, and checking on, their brother and sister, that sort of thing. So I think that we were always just honest with them, that sort of thing, and knowing and allowing them to be a part of the journey versus casting Kaiser to be on this island by himself. I think that has helped out a ton, and it's really beautiful to see now. And like, I get to have like sparks in these moments where I'm like, whoo, it feels good that I get to see what a normal sibling, relationship is like, because they have no mercy on Kaiser. They don't. Like, they have no mercy on him. You're going to get this yelling, you're going to get this butt whooping, like, you're going to get thrown, like, all the things. So it's really cool to see.
Just for context, you were an only child for a very long time.
Oh yeah. I wasn't only.
That was about siblings.
I did not know. So I have a 10-year-old sister, or no, she's 11 now. But yeah, I grew up as an only child, so to see the dynamic is really cool, because I'm like, oh, this is what happens. All right,
The Simpsons is real. They both got it.
This is what my mom talked about when she did X, Y, and Z. Oh, I see now.
That is right. You gotta let it go. I'm gonna let mine go. Like, okay, well, you gotta think for yourself. I kid, I'm not apart. Don't make me apart. How has your faith been an active? And then you talked about God, and you brought him up, and how he's giving you wisdom and kind of peace over a rocky situation and chaos. But like, how really has your faith been through this journey of your child having it, getting it, and having it, and then going through the crisis, and then going to the hospitals, and you went through that bone marrow transplant and didn't really go the way you had expected. And I'm kind of going deep. Sorry.
You're fine. Go ahead. Yeah, I love it.
Walk us through, because I think people, when we think about faith, and we're church kids, right? So it's like, like, oh, the faith of the Lord, and my faith is so strong. But when life really hits you and you go sideways, it can kind of mess with you a little bit and make you, talk to God for real. So how does that
Man, so obviously I relied on God a lot for the wisdom and the understanding and just the knowledge of like what are we doing, that sort of thing. I definitely relied on Him a ton for that. But as far as having faith in what the future holds, that's what I struggled in. That was the one area that me and Keontae were just like, we don't know. And at the end of the day, I think for us, we were like, God is going to have the final say so, that sort of thing, what the typical Bible, how we are, what we always say. However, I was like, I get the final say so, but I'm living in the moment and I don't know how to get through this moment without being upset, without being angry, without like not understanding why in the world are we going through this, that sort of thing. So my faith for certain was definitely tested, in the sense of, I struggled with trying to figure out why can't my child have the cure, that sort of thing. Now, granted, a bone marrow transplant isn't something that is 100%. And we knew that going into it, that it could possibly fail, that sort of thing. And did it fail? Yes. But did we get a better outcome? Yeah, I would say so. He doesn't have as many pain crisis and all that other stuff. But I would definitely say it was tested in the sense of, I didn't know how to pray to God. Like I just felt helpless. I have always been a woman that is like really strong, and I know that about myself, and not in like a boastful way, but I've always been strong in the sense of like, no, I know who my father is and I know how he can help me. And I relied on that strength a lot. Now, however, on the flip side, baby, there's a problem, I got a solution. Like, like anything going wrong, I got you. I know what to do. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel that. For the first time in my life, I felt completely helpless. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know how to take the pain away. I didn't, because people tell you just pray about it, just do this, just do X, Y, and Z. Have you fasted? Have you done this? Have you done that? And I did all of those things, and here we are still stuck with the same problem. And so I think for me, when my faith was tested, God strengthened me in ways that, looking back, I can be grateful for, in the sense of, again, he took my strength of being like, I got a solution. Like, if there's a problem, I got a solution. He took that and he allowed me to be the person that's like, no, be an advocate. You are an advocate. Be that advocate. And in the moment, he was teaching me how to be an advocate for my child. But over the years, I found myself being an advocate for all children, and just being like, hey, like, there are other families out here that are struggling with, certain things. So just being an advocate in general, I would say he strengthened me in that way. But yeah, my faith was definitely tested. I stopped going to church for a minute, just for a minute. Just for a minute.
Like, where you at? What you doing?
For a minute. And it was really because I was just broken, honestly. We went through a bone marrow transplant. Kaiser ended up getting an autoimmune disease. How in the world do you go through a bone marrow transplant that is supposed to cure you, and then on the other side, a couple of months later, you get an autoimmune disease that just pops up out of nowhere and completely depletes the bone marrow transplant? And so it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, Lord, because you're really testing me right now, and I'm really trying. Like, I'm really trying. And at this time, I had stopped working, went back to work. I remember Kaiser went to the hospital. We had no idea what was going on with him. All we saw was his body like shutting down, depleting. We were like, what in the world? And like, I think he'd been in there for probably about 2 to 3 weeks. And I remember having a conversation with my boss, and I was just like, hey, I need to be there for Kaiser. Like, I need to figure out what in the world is going on. And I went into the hospital with him and that sort of thing. And God had given me so much peace in the midst of like what was going on. And I think in that moment, he also made me realize that, that I am again, he made me aware and made me remember that I am an advocate for Kaiser. And in this moment, this is my call to life. Like in this moment, this is my job and this is my only job. And so I think that having that awareness that like God had set up certain situations in a certain way gave me a little bit more hope, I guess you could say, to be like, no, we got this. We can get through this. If anybody can get through it, I know that we can. So yeah, I know that was probably a lot, but
no, that was a real answer.
Yeah,
because you think that God's like a genie, right? And he just boof, you prayed, and everything goes the way you want it to go. But in reality, that's not the case. And you know, he doesn't want Kaiser to be sick, but because he is, because of the world that we live in, and you know, things that are in motion, in that he's giving you the tools and the peace that you need to be the advocate for him and walk alongside him, and also like see God move even in it.
Yeah.
Maybe not moving the way I want him to move. Maybe not moving in the way that I would have scripted it, but God's hand is on it in some way.
Yeah, definitely, because it does take a certain healing. Because if I'm being honest, we were grieving. I mean, a lot of people probably don't see that as a grieving situation, but we were grieving the life that our child could potentially have, if that makes sense. So like our first two children, we know for without a shadow of a doubt, they could go off to college and probably get scholarships in sports or, you know, all these different things. But for Kaiser, what does sports look like for him? Because he can't play a heavy contact sport. He could never play football, although the boy loves it. Like he could never play it just because of the what it could mean for his internal organs or the different things that could go on within his body. So for us, we were just grieving. We were like, we don't know what his life is going to be like. And we set him up to think that he would have the normal life. But he wouldn't. And it's even crazy because even navigating something as simple as life insurance for our older two, easy to get life insurance.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Kaiser can't get it.
Because he has a chronic, and then nobody would cover that.
Yeah.
Wow. The person who needs it the most, though.
Yeah. You would be like, they need it the most, but because they're a liability, then no, they wouldn't be able to. And so even just figuring that out, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm pretty sure there are companies out there that would be like, oh, yeah, we'll cover them and that sort of thing. But I'm pretty sure it's going to come at an astronomical price. You know, we haven't reached that point, you know, that sort of thing. Obviously, we got Kingston and Khaleesi set up, you know, probably within like a couple of like weeks or months whenever they were born. But for Kaiser and Kalila, we're just like, it's a space that we don't even want to navigate right now because I feel like it would just bring so much like a warmer hurdle. That we have to figure out. So yeah, I mean, like it's grief. I mean, it's grief. Yeah,
that's a real label for it. I think people are afraid to admit that because like, oh, am I gonna be a bad mom or a bad parent for saying that? But no, that's real. Of like grieving what could have been, grieving what is.
Yeah,
knowing that your child's gonna have to navigate this his entire life. So that's something, you know.
Yeah, and you're constantly starting over the cycle. You think like, oh, we're doing good. We're having such great moments. Like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then all of a sudden you're like, we're back in this like hole again where you're like, are we going to get out? Is this our breaking point? Like what is going to happen after this moment? So yeah, it's a lot to navigate. Yeah, it is. And I can only imagine what he probably, like Kaiser probably feels like. The poor thing, he used to have like a head full of hair. I think that's what he grieves the most. He always talks about his hair.
He had beautiful, like envy, curly hair. It was so pretty.
Yeah.
I know he went through, because he had to go through through chemo?
Yeah, he had to go through chemo, so he lost all of his hair, and so since then we just kind of kept like the low cut, that sort of thing. We tried the afro, it just wasn't working out. But yeah, so that's what he always talk about. I miss my
hair, my crown.
I know.
His new haircut was slick though. Had little parts on the side. It was like a little 90s vibe going on there. Like, he's a lady killer, sir. He's a big personality. So you're pretty much like you have been becoming an expert on sickle cell, something that you really didn't know. Like you heard about it again, kind of like me. Like T-Boz has it, so yeah. It's like, but what are some resources that you started like gathering and putting in your tool belt to help you understand the questions to ask, the terminology? Because I'm sure that's a whole different vocabulary for sickle cell. So what resources did you start picking up, and what are some that you can give our audience to like look into if they're dealing with a child with
Google. But outside of Google, I will say because again, sickle cell isn't something you can look up information till you blue in the face, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of the information feels the same, and it's because there's probably only a few set of people that have really taken the time to really understand and become well versed and that sort of thing. But I joined a Facebook community group for sickle cell moms and that sort of thing. And reading each of their stories, that sort of thing. And that's what kind of helped me become a little bit more knowledgeable about what is to come, what could be expected, just certain things. But also, too, there were a lot of moms, whatever resources they got, there's a file within the group that you can upload information about what to expect or, different things or different articles that might come out. So that was really helpful for me because I was amongst a community that knew and they understood exactly what it is that we were going through. And there were moms on there that would bring up a situation that happened. And I'm like, wow, that happened to me too. But maybe my doctors don't really know much about it. So I was feeling like, oh, that's normal, or, oh, that I don't really know. That might be something else that's going on. But in reality, it was something that that we're all going through, and it made me kind of like dig deeper. But being amongst other people that are going through the same similar situation, it really helped out a lot because there's a lot of people that don't really believe in the holistic ways of like, natural, like medicines and like, or sorry, not medicines, but like making sure you eat certain foods and all this other stuff. They're heavily relying on the medicines, but then there are other people that are like, hey, the medicines help, but if you try X, Y, Z, it's a little bit more helpful as well. So that was something else that was helpful, just the Facebook group and just hearing their stories and that sort of thing. I'll never forget, I felt like we were going through a cycle. Every 3 weeks, Kaiser was in the hospital. And I was just like, there is something to this whole 3-week thing, whatever the case might be. And I ended up finding another blood disorder that you could potentially have. Mm-hmm. And I never forget like going into the doctors and bringing it up to them, and in that moment I felt so heard because they were like, actually let us do some digging or whatever the case might be, and like they ended up coming back and being like, like, yeah, we can definitely test for that, just because he tracked well with it. Now thankfully he didn't have it, that sort of thing. However, it did put it on their radar, that sort of thing. So honestly, just being in a community of other people really helps out a lot because 9 times out of 10, you'll find the same information about the disorder, just because there's not a lot of people that know much about it. So we're relying on one another to be each other's resources, and to figure out like, oh, that worked for you. Let me see if it'll work for me too. So, yeah.
It's right here. If you're dealing with that, share your story. Share what's working, share what's not working.
Yeah.
And helping people. You're becoming kind of a primary source for sickle cell because there's not much, like you said, not much out there.
Yeah. And it's crazy to even just kind of piggyback off of there's not much out there. There's a lot of people that don't even know about a cure. There's a lot of people that don't even know that there's a bone marrow transplant, there's gene therapy that you can do to get your child to be, cured from sickle cell. And again, that's just because, in other states, they may not have places like Levine Children's Hospital where they study. Like, these people are studying, like, this is their life. Or the College of Duke, where, like, they're like, no, 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 no. We're going to figure this out, different things. So there's a lot of different, there's other states that just don't have that same information and that sort of thing. So they aren't able to pass it along. Yeah.
It's just kind of sad. We have the internet. Pass it along.
Yeah.
Okay, technology does a lot. Shout out to the Levine Center, though.
Yeah.
I think just from watching you guys and how they've taken care of you, and I'm gonna put some pictures too of how they've taken care of a Kaiser. Like that, yeah. I felt like he felt at home at the Levine Center.
He did.
And taking care of children, it takes special people, I think, to take care of sick kids.
Yeah, definitely. And they have done an amazing job at making sure that they care for him in a way that he felt like he didn't miss out on life. And that is the one thing that I really appreciated about them. I don't know. It was just something about, first of all, I think all the nurses on the 11th and 12th floor, was it the 12th floor? I think it was the 11th floor. That they know him. And there are times whenever we had to go back just, out of precautionary measures, they'll be like, so we wanted to come down just to say hi to Kaiser. We heard that he was here. Obviously, it's just an unfortunate thing, but we really do miss you guys and that sort of thing. And so they took care of him. Like, they saw that he loved riding around in the electric vehicles that they had there for him, because he would be able to take walks in the hallway and that sort of thing. So they made him a driver's license.
Oh, that's cute.
So there were just different things that they did for him that really made his journey great.
But I know they did. So the Levine Child Center, it's one in Charlotte, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have they serve more people, different disorders and diseases and things like that. But I know that they did last month. You actually ran for Pound the Ground, which is like a 5K in the city of Charlotte, and it raises money for the center to continue to research and provide resources. So if you're looking for a good charity case, that sounds really bad, doesn't it?
I mean, not really.
Or something that gives back to the community or gives back to people in need. The Levine Child Center is something that I would highly recommend looking into. Yeah. I know we ran it a couple years ago. I almost died, but that's okay.
I was so proud of you. You gave money to a great cause.
That was my first 5K, and she's like, "You want to run this 5K with me in a month?" I'm like, "Sure."
You survived.
I survived.
You can call yourself a runner.
I can, and it opened up me doing other crazy things. I'm like, let's do a 10K now. Why not? But if you're looking for something to give to, you're like, hey, I'm looking, what is a good cause? The Levine Children's Center is definitely one that could use the resources, but they also are very good stewards of the resources that's given. So if you're looking for a 5K to do next year in September, it happens in Charlotte. It takes you through the city, and it takes you up this crazy ramp at the Panther Stadium for a parent reason. But you end off and you realize that you were able to contribute to people like Kaiser, who was able to get the care that he needed and the support he needed during very stressful, scary times of his life.
And if you feel like you can't give money, you can always give time. There are people that do volunteer, that sort of thing. So they, create spaces and time for children to be able to do fun activities, that sort of thing. But also too, we've had so many goodie bags that were given to us with crayons and or maybe a little paint easel, with just all different things, and it made their time that much more enjoyable.
What is something that that surprised you about yourself during this
time? Again, I think I learned about myself. I'm a really strong person, and I will very much take a beating for my children. So, and I don't mean that in a boastful way, but I mean that in a way of I want it to be encouraging to someone else that you can be strong in the face of adversity. Like it can be really tough and you can get really down on yourself, and you've seen those moments where I'm just like, I'm done. But I think it's something about being able to be resilient. And even I learned that I can learn through my children. Kaiser taught me how to be resilient. He taught me that, like, hey, mommy, I'm going through it. You can go through it too. And you can overcome because I'm overcoming. So that was something that I definitely learned about myself. But also too, I don't take no junk when it comes to my kids. Like I was very much, and again, I probably made a lot of doctors and nurses frustrated and mad, but we ain't doing that, and I don't want to do that, and we're gonna try something different. And so I learned that I can be strong on my own 2 feet. So yeah, I think that was just the biggest thing for me that I learned. So
yeah, it's a good message to anybody that's listening, is that you can do it.
Yeah.
And you have a voice, and use it in the doctor's room, because it can be very intimidating when you're in front of the people who are the experts, who have the badges and the white coats, and they're telling you one thing and you're like, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you should do this instead, or I did look this up. And like being okay with being outspoken, because the only person that can speak for your child is really you.
Yeah.
Especially when they're young, when they're like 6 months or a year old, you've got to be the voice for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it, going into the situation, a lot of times you're relying on the doctors to tell you everything. But what happens when what they tell you isn't what you need, that sort of thing. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that it's okay if what they're saying is not okay with me, and we need to figure something else out. And I think that, if I could tell other moms or other parents that are going through the same situation, speak up. And it's okay to speak up, even if it may sound dumb, even if, or you may feel like it sounds dumb, or even if you feel like this isn't going to get us anywhere. You never know, because they have to put in their notes anyway, what the conversation was, what they talked about, all the different things. So you can do the same exact thing, the same way that they have to follow protocol and put in a follow-up, a summary and all of that other stuff. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put in my notes what we talked about today. And then, there may be some times where I need to do a follow-up email, be like, hey, I know we talked about X, Y, and Z today. I just want some clarity, that sort of thing. It's okay to treat it as if it's like a working relationship. You got documentation, I got documentation. You got documentation that I didn't do X, Y, and Z. I got documentation you didn't either. So
you're so funny. You know how they give you that spill of like, is it okay if you record this visit?
Oh, yeah.
Is it okay if I record this? Can I get your consent? Because I'm not going to record.
But yeah, but again, though, it definitely made it easy that we had an amazing team that I think, because I was so sure of myself, and I was so sure of Kaiser, and being like this person that was like, no, I'm going to be very knowledgeable about what it is that he's going through. It allowed them to give me the space to even ask the questions, or even to figure out what else is going on.
Well, Kiera, I thank you so much for allowing us into that space of just, it can be kind of a lonely place sometimes for people, but thank you for shedding light to what sickle cell is, or what it's like to be a mom and a parent to a child that has a chronic illness, but also showing that your faith and your friends and your community and just your own like perseverance of, I'm going to figure this out. It's like, you're not always smiling, and you're not always good, and you're not always superwoman. There are days that you're down, but I truly admire your strength. I truly admire your faith. I feel like you don't really have faith or strength until you've fallen down to a weakened point, because you really don't know. You're just like, oh, everything is good, it's bubble gums and gumdrops. But the moment where you have to see God move, and you have to see where He says, in the Bible it says, where my when I'm weak, you're strong. Or oh my God, I quoted that so wrong. In my weakness, you are strong. I do read the Bible, guys. I do. I promise. The Charmaine version. But you never know how strong God is until you get into it. Until you get into a weekend point.
Absolutely.
So I do want to thank you. I think you're a superwoman. I know it was hard to hear of Kalila's diagnosis a couple years later, and knowing that, oh, we got to do this again. But I really believe God knew she was coming, even though I told her not to. God knew she was coming. God knew what was going to be the journey for her. But He knew that you'd be the parent to gift her to you, and you'd be a good steward over her and over Kaiser. I really do think God appoints children to us. They're not ours. We are to steward them, and we are to raise them up and love them, but they're not ours. And He knew exactly who to give His two precious children to, and that was you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And I don't know, just to, kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, that is something that I do have to do every day, or every week, is give my children back to God. I'm like, they're not mine. So I know that what they're going through is not something that I want them to go through. But at the end of the day, God, like, use them. And God, I just pray that you just continuously use me to help them. So yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
No, well, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I love you, and
I love you too. Bye.